ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिन्निति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे नित्यानंद नमस्तुभ्यं प्रेमानंद प्रदायिने कलौ कल्मषनाशाय जानवापतये नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरतुसे नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा। So we welcome everyone for today's discussion on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So yesterday we were discussing from chapter 2 and verse number 39. This is the next new section 39, from verse number 39 till verse number 54. Lord Krishna is going to speak about Buddhi Yoga. Buddhi Yoga means Bhakti Yoga. Buddhi Yoga means where real intelligence will come into picture. Function of real intelligence. Buddhi Yoga, yoga means connection. So when our intelligence get connected to the Supreme Lord, and we instead of using our contaminated intelligence or इसको बोलते हैं corrupt intelligence, भ्रष्ट बुद्धि, we rather choose to use Krishna's intelligence, what Krishna says. So conditioned soul's intelligence is corrupt intelligence. And the corruption is because of a virus. What is the name of that virus? Because of which the intelligence has become corrupted. Maya. Maya is the agent. The virus, name of virus is lust. The lust affects the senses as well as mind and intelligence also. That is known as lusty intelligence. Lusty intelligence means the intelligence which forces a person to acquire material sense gratification. That is lusty intelligence. Because the function of intelligence is to plan. So if somebody plans how he can fulfill his material desires, that means he is using his lusty intelligence. But a devotee, a yoga in yoga, Buddhi yoga, means a person who is interested in advancing in the spiritual life. No more he uses his corrupt or lusty intelligence. Rather, he takes the help from the pure intelligence given by Supreme Lord Krishna in terms of Bhagavad Gita and the intelligence given by devotees. So this is what is going to be discussed in this section, verse number 39 to verse number 54. So Krishna is telling, "Ye satya vihita sankhye buddhir yoge tu imam srunu buddhaya yukto yaya partha karma bandham prahasyasi." By acting with this buddhi yoga, Arjuna, you will become free from karma bandham. Prahasyasi. Prahasyasi means you will completely become free from, you will completely be released from the bondage of reaction. Prakrishtrupena hasyasi. So thus far, I have described this knowledge to you through analytical study. Now listen as I explain it in terms of working without fruitive results. O son of Pritha, when you act in such knowledge, you can free yourself from the bondage of works. One can become completely free from the bondage of work when one acts according to the directions or intelligence given by the Supreme Lord. So till now, Krishna explained analytically, based on the analysis of that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. So yesterday we discussed about this, that even though a person, she knows very well that he is not this body, he is spirit soul, but still, why she is unable to give up the desire for sense gratification. What is the reason? Okay, I'll tell. The main reason is because of gratifying one's senses since time immemorial. So one develops a kind of great attachment or this affection is generated. Attachment for sense gratification is generated. So it becomes, and that great attachment, of course, it is known as lust. So that great attachment doesn't allow a person to give it up, even though he knows very well that I'm going to become miserable after engaging in sense gratification. So we were discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam regarding this, where Lord Krishna says, Lord Krishna explains about it in Srimad Bhagavatam. Uh, Tato bhajet mam bhaktaya. जात्र श्रद्धो मत कथासु निर्विन्न सर्व कर्मसु वेद दुख आत्मकान कामान परित्याग्य अपि अनीश्वरा ततो भजेत मां प्रीता श्रद्धालु दृढ़निश्चया युष्मानश्च तान् कामान् दुःखोदर्कांश गर्हयन्. So this is from 11th canto, chapter 20, verse number 27, 28. These two verses are being spoken by Supreme Lord Krishna himself. So Krishna is giving great hope for those sadhakas who have taken shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, who are trying to advance in devotional service, but because of extreme kind of attachment for sense gratification, they are unable to give it up completely. But they have come to the realization. What is that realization? Krishna says, having awakened faith in the narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment. This is the condition. At least one should come to this stage. Then what he has to do, Krishna tells further how he can become free. But at least one should be convinced either through his own experience or through the experience, seeing the experiences of others. It is not required that one has, in order to come to this conclusion that sense gratification leads to miseries, one does not require to experience it his own self. One can see others also by seeing. The one who can learn by seeing others' experiences, he is fortunate and intelligent, isn't it? So that I will not have to undergo such miserable experience. That is intelligence. It's like sometimes some people say, अरे आपने तो सब छोड़ दिया, पहले घर गृहस्थी में तो आओ. First you come and enjoy sense gratification, then you will realize that it is miserable, and then you can actually perfectly become detached. Because until unless you experience the miseries of sense gratification, so the hankering within the heart will remain. हाँ, दिल्ली के लड्डू जो खाया वो पछताया, जो नहीं खाया वो भी पछताया. This hankering will remain. So that's true for those people who have not developed the transcendental knowledge. Those who are not fortunate enough to get associated with a bona fide spiritual master who imparts this transcendental knowledge, and along with this transcendental knowledge, he also imparts the this realization, experience of material existence as well as spiritual existence. So only those kind of people, if they leave the material sense gratification, still within their heart, the hankering for sense enjoyment will remain, and they will be forced, either today or tomorrow, they will be forced to engage in sense gratification, even though they may try their hard to save themselves. But this is not applicable for those persons, devotees who have taken shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. Just like it is said uh, that in order to progress in life, achieve success in life, one requires the inspiration from a woman. This question was asked to His Holiness Radhana Swami Maharaj once. So this is said. because that is experience. And the great kings, they they worked very hard. They could rule, uh, and they fought with vigor and with inspiration. Why? Because of inspirations from their queens. This is mentioned in Bhagavatam also. This scriptures explain about this. But this is meant for only those people who have no other source of inspiration in their life. Who have no other source of inspiration in their life. For them, this is required that they need to get some material motivation, some inspiration from outside. But for a person who is already inspired from one of his spiritual masters, he doesn't require to advance in Krishna consciousness. Uh, One devotee, he was telling me, a youth boy, uh, he said, Roji, when I talk to that Mataji, she is very nice devotee. Very, I'm not looking after her beauty. I'm looking after her spiritual interests. She is very serious and sincere. So whenever I talk to her, I live with her. So she inspires me to make progress in Krishna consciousness. So I said, I never met any woman or girl in my life. So what do you think? I'm not advancing in Krishna consciousness? How I am able to chant? You are, he told Prabhuji, you told you were telling from so many years to chant 16 rounds. Now I'm chanting 25 rounds. How? Because that Mataji inspired me. You could not inspire. I said, okay, I may be important spiritually. Spiritually, I may be important, so I could not inspire. But who inspired me? I'm chanting 80, 90 rounds every day and so many classes, so almost 24 hours. Who is inspiring? No woman, no Mataji. From the beginning of my life till now, and hope to like this till the last breath of my life. So there's no requirement because the real source of inspiration is from spiritual personalities, pure devotees. So when one is under the shelter of a protection of a pure devotee, spiritual master, so from there, if one gets the inspiration, then it is permanent, and it makes one rapidly advance in Krishna consciousness, and then there is no question of getting entangled into Maya. One can overcome all kinds of Maya, and one can very with full-fledged speed, one can go towards Krishna. There is no requirement for these things. So the inspirations one gets from the sense, material sense gratification, that may temporarily inspire a person to act either spiritually or materially, but actually that becomes another kind of entanglement for that person. And in order to come out of that entanglement or attachment, it requires a great deal of strength, endeavor is required, effort is required. The same devotee now he is unable to even maintain the basic four regulatory principle. This is a fact. Now I have to struggle very hard in order to convince him or help him that, Hare Baba, you at least you were following four regulatory principles nicely, and you were chanting 16 down, sometimes up and down, but now you are unable to follow four regulatory principles because of this. So similarly, the same thing. Those who think that until unless one experiences material desire, sense gratification, he cannot actually renounce the word. Hare Krishna. Welcome. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Just khatam karta हूँ. So this is a great misconception. This is known as philosophy of Daksha Prajapati. In Bhagavatam, Daksha Prajapati, you have heard? दक्ष प्रजापति नाम सुना है? आपने लेक्चर में दिया। हाँ, दक्ष प्रजापति, his philosophy was the same. When Narad Muni, he made his 10th, 11,000 boys domestic brahmachari and sannyasi. So Daksha Prajapati became very angry upon Narad Muni, and Daksha Prajapati started telling that you are doing the greatest disservice to the humanity in this world. Just like some of many times people say that ISKCON वाले ये बहुत बड़ा जो है क्या कर रहे हैं, डिससर्विस कर रहे हैं ह्यूमन सोसाइटी के लिए. दे आर मेकिंग ब्रह्मचारीज एंड सन्यासीज. हाँ, they are not allowing them to enjoy in this material world sense gratification. Even a spiritual point of view, If you look from the spiritual point of view, if somebody has not experienced the miserable situation of householder life, grahastha life, or sense gratification, life of sense gratification, one cannot become fully released from material entanglement. This is the philosophy of Daksha Prajapati. Daksha Prajapati said the same thing, that because they have not experienced the miseries of entering into householder life, so their renunciation is incomplete. So first, he then teaches Narad Muni that first of all, one should be engaged in material sense gratification business, and then he should be allowed to experience himself the miseries which he will get by enjoying sense gratification. Then he can come out of it and fully renounce the world. So Daksha Prajapati is teaching to whom? Narad Muni. And who is Narad Muni? He is Nastic Brahmachari. He never entered into any kind of sense gratification, and he has advanced and perfectly he is growing in his spiritual life. So the example, the most example, perfect example is standing in front of Daksha Prajapati himself, but still Daksha Prajapati is trying to convince Narad Muni the other way around. So Narad Muni is himself the example of a person who, without undergoing the miserable activities of sense gratification and just hearing from the Shastras, he developed the intelligence and left it and immediately progressed. So this is not at all required. So important point here is that Lord Krishna is telling that those who have become convinced, and that all sense gratification leads to misery. So this conviction must be there. If somebody is not convinced about this, that all sense gratification leads to misery, he cannot practically take this Krishna consciousness movement in full-fledged form. Wholeheartedly, he cannot take, because still the hankering will remain. Oh, maybe थोड़ा सा सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन करके आना चाहिए था। ऐसा हैंकरिंग रहेगा हमेशा। सोचेगा कहाँ फंस गया कृष्णा कॉन्शियसनेस में, अभी मैं इसमें आने के कारण अपनी मटेरियल डिजायर फुलफिल नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ। स्टिल ही इज थिंकिंग दैट बाय डूइंग सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन आई कैन गेट सम हैप्पीनेस. So this is required. So those who have come to this stage that all sense gratification leads to misery, and for coming to this stage, one does not require to undergo this miserable situation. Simply by hearing from the Shastras, one can understand. So if anyway, if somebody has come to this conclusion, either through personal experience or through hearing from bona fide authorities or through seeing others, uh, these four classes of people are there. The first class intelligence is that simply by hearing from scriptures, Guru and Sadhu, one understands that this material sense gratification leads to miserable situation. This is first class intelligence. Second class intelligence is that simply hearing is not sufficient. So he comes out of the shelter of Guru, and then he looks around, hankers for sense gratification, then says, oh, this person, he indulged in sense gratification, he is very miserable. And he takes U-turn and goes back to the spiritual master. No, no, my dear Guru Maharaj, you said the right thing. I'm not going anywhere else. I am with you. This is second class intelligence, still good intelligence. And third class intelligence is that he thinks that the person who is suffering because of sense gratification, he is not so intelligent. That's why he could not properly indulge in material activities to enjoy sense gratification. But I am intelligent. I will do sense gratification in such a manner that these miseries won't affect me. So he thinks like this, and then he undergoes, and then he experiences great amount of this distress, suffering because of sense gratification, and then he takes U-turn. He comes back. This is third class intelligence. It's still good, not perfect, not good, but it's still okay. But the fourth class intelligence is that even after suffering again and again, again and again, because of indulging in sense gratification, still one is unwilling to give it up. One is unable to give it up, that is the second case. That may be there. But if one is unwilling to give it up, then his intelligence is worst class intelligence. Then the only future of such a person is that he has to remain entangled in this material world till the time he at least comes to the third class intelligence, second or first class intelligence. Uh, Okay, so I'm going to ask one question. Then we'll end here and we'll continue tomorrow because we have very nice devotees with us. Uh, Anshu, Shilpa Mataji, Pritam Prabhu, Sona Mataji. So today is birthday of Shilpa Mataji. We are going to celebrate it. So my question is, how many of you are convinced that all material sense gratification leads to miseries in life? So Lord Krishna, in this way, he explains that all sense gratification leads to miserable situation. So then he finally uh, gives his instruction to those devotees who are convinced and who are willing to give it up. So Krishna says, so although he is convinced that all sense gratification leads to misery, but is still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, then what he should do? My devotee, that means only a devotee of Krishna can develop such kind of first class intelligence that he can understand that sense gratification leads to misery. That's why Krishna is telling na, that he is although knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but is still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment. My devotee should remain happy and worship me with great faith and conviction, even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment. My devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to a miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities. In this way, one should. Tato bhajet mam prita. Krishna says, Veda dukhatmakan kaman. He knows, Ved means he knows that all the kaman, sense gratification, leads to miserable situation. He knows, but parityage api anishvara. But he is anishvara. Anishvara means he is unable to give it up completely. He is unable to give it up. Then what he should do? He should tato bhajet, tato bhajet mam prita. He should worship me with pleasure. Mam prita. Shraddhalu with faith. Drid nishya with determination. Jusmana shatan kama dukkho dar kam se garya. In this way he can gradually he will overcome, because gradually when he will remain engaged in service of Krishna, so he will develop such intense attachment for Krishna that he will give up the attachment for material sense gratification. In this way he can become free. Okay. Thank you very much.